started it. Let you guys get in there. I'm a few minutes early. Did it even go live if I'm early? I did make it public, right? Hey there, hey Fitz, Janet, TK. There, we're getting in there. Now they're coming in. I'm just gonna give you guys a minute. I said 8. For once, I was early. I was like 2 freaking minutes early here. Gavin was early, and then let me see if I can do this. Do it like a. For once in his life, was 2 minutes early. Hola, buenas noches. So, yeah, I thought we'd go live. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. Look at this police chase. Just happened. I think like last night. And good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Gavin Seim live show. I've got a cup of good herbal tea here because I'm feeling a little under the weather. I'm gonna let you guys pop in. Let me get rid of those so I can just kind of look you right in the eye, right? Stare right at the lens. When did I do a live stream? Wait, did I do a live stream today? No, I did a live stream yesterday. Okay, so we're good. We haven't done, I did a video today. So check out the video that I did today. I'll let you guys get in there. These guys with this police chase. First, it popped up on my feed, this police chase. And I'm like, you know what? Another police chase. And then I started watching this, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do a video on this because these guys this is crazy. This was a crazy police chase. We're going to get to it in just a minute. I'm going to let us get started, and we're going to analyze this a little bit, not the whole thing because it was like an hour long. I'm just going to skip through, and I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the realities because police abusing people has become a sport, right? Police showing off at the expense of lives is entertainment. So we went from blood sport and gladiators to football and baseball and soccer, which is also football, by the way. And now we're kind of regressing. Our level of humanity is regressing to where we're regressing to using mass media for the psycho soldiers of the street to entertain people with things like police chases. It doesn't really matter to people if people are dying. Everything's a joke. I remember, good to see you all guys in there. Yeah, now we're getting in there. I remember when we were doing the Malheur Refuge live stream. It's still on this channel. And we were the only feed getting out of that live stream when the FBI was surrounding that place to try and continue their violence. And it was entertainment for people. We had, was it 30 or 60 or 80,000 people in the live feed? Nothing like today, right? Back then, my channel got views, especially when things, because when I was in the States, I would end up in the middle of this stuff. And there were all these people watching, and just because the media was against the people at the refuge who were trying to protest in Bundy, everybody just wanted blood. It's just a blood sport for people at this point. And just make sure, I just think we need to remind ourselves to make sure we're not part of that lynch mob. All right, I'm gonna keep drinking tea so my throat doesn't get crapped out here. And we'll get to this. I think we got enough in there. We got almost 50 of you guys in there. So let's go to the topic of the afternoon here. And let's just analyze it. First of all, before I start, those of you that saw this video in this SoCal crazy police pursuit, tell me what you think in the comments, right? If you saw this, what do you think about these police pursuits, like this big one, right? Stolen vehicle, okay, it's not like other situations where the police are, just trying to extort someone over a parking ticket. So there is a victim, but who created most of the victims in this case? Who created the incident is what I think we have to ask. And I think when you look at these situations that police are, in general, the police are creating these incidents, okay? They're creating the problems. Most of the violence on the streets that pours over is caused by the politicians and the police in some form. It's not just that there's not bad people and bad actors engaged in these events. So it's the same here, right? The chaos that currently exists in Mexico and that's growing in the United States and across the world. But Mexico's current corruption and violence exists almost entirely because of U.S. violence, our complete defiance of human rights and the Constitution with the way we manage our border, and to reinforce that and put more power into the hands of the politicians, the creation of the drug war, which the U.S. politicians then buy the politicians in the south of the border to control them and perpetrate that drug war so that the U.S. maintains a position of superiority. Okay? So let's do it. We got 60 or so of you in here. 70. Let's look at this video, and I'll open up the show because I'll edit this out. We've been going for 5 or 10 minutes here. And I'll start us, and we'll analyze this. And I'm going to give you my feedback, and we'll look. Hi, everybody, it's Gavin Seim. Welcome to the show. There is this huge police chase right over here. Just happened, I think this was last night, and absolutely insane. When I was watching this and the intensity of it, I was thinking the police love this. This is their sport. Their sport is getting on the air, getting a helicopter in the air, having thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people engaged and watching in a situation that they control. Because make no mistake, when there's these chases, they control the situation. Let's actually look, and I'll come back and we'll talk about it. So somebody steals a car. Somebody steals this van to begin with, all right? At somewhere in this, he switches, but he starts by stealing this van. You can tell it's a sport because the announcers actually sounds like you're watching a football game.
But he is waiting for backup, and at this point really has very few options available to him. Here's another officer on the suspect's rear flank.
They've got him cornered. He's bailing out. He's going out. These vans are big, guys. I have a van like this, a window van.
See those two officers
now, notice
and he is just going back and forth.
There's only one cop car here, right?
To escape here,
and cops are the ultimate cowards. Cops don't actually stand up for things. So they're not going to engage with this guy, even though now would have been the time to really make him not leave and just pull in there, right? So he couldn't get out. Would have been a done deal right there.
Those officers do. They really don't have many options.
They actually did. They did have options. All they had to do instead of hiding back here is keep pushing their car in and really just kind of push him until he was cornered and couldn't go out anymore. So they had options because they weren't in a small vehicle either.
Here, full car, officers out of the vehiol, and now he's racing.
Listen, this sounds like you're watching a game. Fitzcam knows this. He works in media. So I'm going to skip through. We're not going to watch like the whole hour video here. But they got this chase. You got your announcer. You got your helicopter. You got your aerial cams. All right.
Back onto the 91 freeway. He is that reckless and willing to put themselves in that position where they are face to face with those officers. Very dangerous.
Right. So what do we have? We have a stolen vehicle. We have a stolen vehicle, and I'm going to mute this side of it, the audio for now. And you have now these police engaging in a pursuit. Now, with perhaps the rare exception okay, with perhaps the rare exception of a person, like a kidnapped person where they're trying to recover them, which is usually not really what's happening. Let's come back to this, because it does sound like a baseball game. And that's how, when I heard this, I was like, this is a sport. This is a sporting event for the serfs, okay? Because this entire situation was completely unnecessary. If you go back to that first 6-minute mark in the video, you see that everything that occurred was because of the initial Keystone cops that just sat there while the guy in the stolen vehicle rammed their vehicle and left. Because as they hid behind their cars and trees with guns, right, you got some guy who's probably on drugs or something like that, who steals a car. But these guys who are supposed to be professional crime stoppers, right, any group of neighborhood watch people could have rolled in there, opened the door, and drugged this guy out before he had a chance to move the vehicle. Without violence, nobody getting hurt, a little bit of damage to the vehicles. That would have been it, right? That's what us normal people would do if someone was like cornered in our neighborhood and had stolen a vehicle. I think that's what I would do. Isn't that what you would do? If you were in this neighborhood, your neighbor's car, let's say, had been stolen, another neighbor had pushed him in with his pickup truck in the corner, what would you do as other neighbors, right? Well, you'd come in here and you would just pull him out right here at the 6-minute mark, the 5-minute mark when they had him. He was literally right here. But that wouldn't have made an exciting event. And it also would have required that the police officers, instead of being these conniving rats hiding behind people's cars and trees and houses and protecting themselves with other people, they would have had to actually work and actually do something that was relevant to their job, right? And you're right. If it's a show is for ratings, if it bleeds, it loads. And that's what these car chases are all about. That's why immediately they get the helicopters out. Yeah, they could have used pepper spray, but you wouldn't even need it, probably. If you'd had a couple guys there, they could have just ran up to the car and stopped the guy, right? Because they had him cornered, they had him blocked in. So this goes on for an hour, and at some point in here, he changes vehicles. Now, here's what I want you to think about. The police, the first thing to understand, the biggest car thieves in the world, in pretty much any country, are the police. The police are in the business. It's one of their primary revenue sources is stealing cars. It's even true here in Mexico, right? The police find ways to infract cars. They're in cahoots with the tow companies that give them a kickback to come and steal those cars, lock them away, and charge people outrageous sums that have no basis on the towing cost or anything when the whole incident was unnecessary in the first place. So my point is not that this guy that stole the car is the good guy. This guy obviously isn't the good guy. My point is that you understand that the police aren't the good guys either. Police don't care about stopping car theft. Police are in the business of violence, car theft, and human trafficking. That's what they do. Police don't like competition. That's what the police can't have. But what the police are going to do is when someone competes with them, their plan from a media perspective, right? The individual officers, they just get paid to follow orders and to rob and steal and do their thing and have egos. But from a larger perspective, from the organization of the corporate perspective of the police, they have to justify their existence. It's well known, it's been established so many times that high-speed chases are not a benefit to society. So you think about this guy that stole a car. Let's say these police, for their cowardice or for some other reason, couldn't stop the van when it was back at that original point. Okay, let's say he was on the road and he was driving away. What do you gain? Tell me what you gain by chasing a car, crashing into other cars, running into the back of the car, destroying the police cars. You probably had, I don't know what the actual body count of vehicles that is in this. No one died here as far as I know. But the collateral damage is hundreds of thousands of dollars, not just the vehicles that were stolen. Now, if the police hadn't been engaged in their sporting event, in their hunting event, where they hunt human beings, this wouldn't have occurred, right? All of this here is because they wanted a show, and because police cannot, more than anything, they'll engage in chases like this over a speeding ticket, over a burnt out taillight, if you do not submit to their insanity. And this guy makes it for a long time, right? These guys are actually incredibly incompetent at stopping this truck, right? Because this guy's he's in a pickup truck, guys, and they have all the resources in the world. So my first takeaway from this is, number one, they wanted this to go on, right? It was like, ratings are up, everybody loves this, keep it going. Because this didn't need to go on for an hour. There were so many ways that this could have been nipped in the bud. And with a lot less collateral damage than you see here in these videos. So then you go through, right? We get up to here. Let's go up to about 106. And cars are being hit as the police are chasing this guy. But let's fast forward right to when they stop him, right? The sparks are flying, the wheels are coming off. I'm guessing the tires are flat at this point and he's riding on the rim. Obviously, this guy, yes, is endangering. But who's creating the greatest danger on this highway is the police. They're the one, they always say, like, he caused a public danger. The police are the ones that are causing all these accidents on the road, that are chasing this guy. He's crashing. He just wiped into that Jeep. 2 cars down there, right? Just so the police can have their jollies and just so that the serfs can enjoy. It's New Edge. It's bread and circus for the plebs. Now watch what happens. He comes into this gas station, okay? He hits 1 car. So I don't know how many cars are down now. We're at least at 5 or 6 cars, including the police cars that destroyed. Look at how incompetent these guys are, right? Imagine if your goal was to protect other people. This guy's obviously about at his last leg. You've been chasing him now for over an hour, putting on your theater. And imagine that you come in, he just hits this car, and you're this cop right here, okay, right in the back. And you come in, he's slowing down, this cop comes up, these guys are getting out, this cop comes up, he bumps into this car, and this car just rams him at full speed, destroying this vehicle and this vehicle over here as well. Okay, now he comes in, and they're all racing in, and obviously the people in the gas station are like, what the bleep's going on here? So this is what happens when we let police who act as violent criminals. And you see him, like, he's backing into these guys, right? He's going for it. He's ramming into them, and they're getting their they're having to jump out of the way. But look at all these. Now you got 20 cops, right? Because police act in a pack. And that's why they didn't stop it at the beginning. One of 2 reasons: just pure cowardice and incompetence, or they wanted the chase because they needed a good propaganda thing. They needed to show the people. But no one in the society benefited. Not the owners of the stolen vehicles. Now, on the other hand, if they had said, okay, here's this vehicle, let him run, let him go to his place. This guy's obviously got something going on. The vehicle probably would have turned up in suitable condition, right? There wouldn't have been 2 vehicles stolen. There wouldn't have been 10 cars destroyed. There wouldn't have been all this disruption, millions of dollars in costs and resources. Think about this. Everything they did here was of no purpose but for ego, for ratings, and for propaganda. Did the owner of this car? No, this car's destroyed. This truck's destroyed, right? What about all the other people that got their trucks destroyed? Now, to top it off, if you want to know how much it's about ego, right? Let's look over here. Here's the car when they came into the gas station. I'm going to show you this. I want to draw your attention because no one's talking about this. This car on the left here in the white. They ram into it, okay? Now we fast forward a little. And we're going to see what happens. Direct your attention to that car right up here. The police, this guy got his car rammed because of their psychopathy, right? And then we go forward a few minutes. I don't even know what led up to this. I don't know what was going on, but I'm skip, and you see what's going on here. And we're going to go up until we get to this point here. And I'm going to show you so you can just see how little this is about anyone's safety. The police have no problem with collateral damage as long as they get what they want. Now let me check that timestamp. I'm just a second. Here we go. 109, because I made some notes. I do prep, right? I do prep these things. So Let's go to 110. 110.30. All right? 110.30. Here we go. Now, what you see with the little car up there is right here. This is all going on. This guy's such a danger. The police are up here beating this guy up and dragging him out of his car. This was the driver of this car that the police caused to be rammed into 5 times more than was necessary. And they now have him on the ground, right? Beating him up, putting him in handcuffs right up here for who knows what reason, but because, right, you got 30 cops down here. The guy in the pickup truck who's probably strung out on something is such a danger. He was such a danger to society that they have time to be screwing over the guy up here on the right that just got his car wrecked so that they can get, we're going to get a little more action. We're going to get a little more ego out of this, right? Look at them hiding behind this car, acting like they're saving the day while they work this guy over. And they've worked him over. He's now on the road. They got him in cuffs and they're dragging him off for whatever reason, right? Maybe because he wouldn't move his car after they destroyed it. Who knows what actually happened there? But you have to actually watch and pay attention to what's going on. You can't just see the narrative of guy stole a car, police are trying to stop it because stealing cars is bad. That's not what happened. Guy stole a car, that's bad. Police didn't do their job and stop the car and return the vehicle to its owner. They instead created a theater, this theater right here, which eventually ended in police shooting their guns all over the place like imbeciles because they're too big of cowards to actually just send a few guys up to the car, get the guy out and say, what was this about? What the heck, right? So they have to start shooting in the middle of a crowded street. 40, 50 police here, more maybe, helicopters in the air. It's a show. This is a sport, you guys. This is blood sport for the ignorant who just want to be entertained. And at the same time, they show their force. They show they're powerful. They show you can't get away with it, right? But all of this was created. This entire situation, all the results of it, all the collateral damage, the people hurt, the vehicles damaged, it was created by the police. The person who stole the vehicle obviously did a bad thing. But everything that came after that was created by a system designed to empower the police and their crime syndicate because they're blue ISIS. That's what we do. And I know that the state worshipers can be like, that's ridiculous, that's stupid, the police were just doing their job. No, the police weren't doing their job. This served no one, least of all the owners of the vehicles, which are now destroyed. Any questions? Cops on adrenaline are a grave risk to everyone. Yeah. Exciter. And really, let's be honest, their superiors like it because this is good TV, right? This is good TV. It's like watching a movie, but you don't have $300 million in production costs. The collateral damage, well, the collateral people can pay for that and the insurance companies. And that is the reality of this police chase and pretty much all police chases. Most of them are simply for ego, for money, and for propaganda. And at this point, the car is on fire because of all the insanity. I mean, this car is done, right? Most of these vehicles are destroyed. And that's what happens when instead of a group of people that actually have an ounce of courage and a desire to protect people, you have a gang of ego-driven psychopaths trained in violence, stealing, theft, and control through fear. All right, you guys. Put a marker on this so I know where the mainstream ended. All right? Look at these losers. Like, they're coming in here with guns and shields and all this stuff. Like, this guy's really a threat. Can you believe us normal people, we have to face a more dangerous threat than this guy every time we get in an argument with some jerk at the shopping center who's mad about the way we parked, right? Like, a mother and her 3 children can handle a confrontational incident better than 120 police. All right? Bar fighting, appreciate it. The masses of the public are ignorant, but breaking laws to enforce laws is still against the law. Exactly. And it's against the law to steal. But ruining everyone else's property and causing a big incident because of that. It's this ends justify the means. Okay, so that, I've gone for my 30 minutes almost. You guys know the rules of live streams. If I go for 30 minutes for the show, And then every dollar of super chat, I go for another minute. All right. And if you super chat $10 or more, you get to change the topic within the boundaries of the channel. It can't be something too ridiculous. We're not going to go talk about Britney Spears gossip, right? But so bar fighting, you can, I think we've kind of covered this. We can chat about this more. But if bar fighting wants to throw a topic, and if you throw in the super chat, you can say, hey, I want to talk about this. And if it's within reason, we'll switch the topic to that in these live shows. Give me just a second here. Let me check. All right, we're still going here. We're still going. How's our stream? We got 92 in the stream. That's not bad, you guys, for a Friday night for the show. If you guys saw my crypto topic, just another one of those little videos I recorded this afternoon. I was doing recording pretty much all day on various things for my studio channel over at Seim Studios, doing photo videos and stuff like that. But if you saw this video I did, because crypto's crashing right now, and there's all this stuff going on with thanks again, bar fighting. And I did this video. Go check it out. This video lost me subscribers, and it really made me think. It goes back to, I don't know what the word for it is. There's a word I'm looking for when people in our movements, oftentimes people I respect, but they're so obsessed with this is the solution, Bitcoin, right? The fight is Bitcoin. We have to have more Bitcoin. We have to have crypto. That's what's going to save us from government. Well, obviously, no. I mean, the government's already completely taking control. To do transactions with Bitcoin in most places, you have to give your social security number so that the thieves can make sure they're getting their cut. All right. The issue, and this is the word I'm looking for, is the people. Like, I do a video on Bitcoin, and I'm not a hater of Bitcoin, right? I learned about Bitcoin way before all the people that are now telling me, Gavin, do you know about Bitcoin? You got to get on the Bitcoin train. When I first was researching crypto and Bitcoin was $30 per coin. So this isn't even on the charts anymore, right? This must have been 2009, 2010. I don't even know. Maybe it must have been like 2010, maybe 2008. I don't even remember. But it was cheap. And I remember thinking, I could buy 10 of these for like $300, but what would I do with them? And I was looking into it, and I remember thinking at the time, this was a long time ago, and getting a little bit here and there from these little free faucets and stuff. You could get it free, little bits of it. And I remember thinking, this is interesting, but I have other bills. I'm trying to do other business. And retrospect, I mean, obviously, if you know what game to bet on 10 years in advance, you can go to the bank with it, right? But it's not like I regret not buying Bitcoin. It's like, oh, I wish I'd known it was going to be $70,000 this year, because my 10 Bitcoins I wouldn't be having to work anymore. I wouldn't be working my ass off trying to survive and trying to, get a goofy YouTube channel to pay my rent and have my photo business, because business has sucked for me the past couple of years. And so it makes people mad, though, when I don't have this adoration. It's the same if somebody wants to debate about flat Earth. And I'm like, guys, this isn't the problem. When people are being gunned down in the streets, why are we arguing and dividing with each other over the shape of the Earth? I don't care if you believe in triangle Earth, right? I think most of these arguments, and usually the people that are defending these diehards, their arguments generally make very little sense. I'm a person that likes science. I believe in faith and in Jesus and in loving your neighbor, but I like there to be evidence. That's why I study law and constitutions and science, and I study herbs and medicine. I like to know why. I've always been a person that says, but why? And I told someone yesterday, the two most powerful words that you can have in dealing with people in this life is why and no. Why and no. Because we're so conditioned, right? We're so conditioned that you have to have, respect for others. And what they say when they mean respect is not that you actually respect them as human beings, that you're not vulgar with them for no reason. When they say respect, they mean blind obedience. That's what kids are taught in schools. That's what they're taught on the streets. You're just supposed to obey. And that's what this over here is all about. This is about blind obedience. If you don't obey, these psychopaths will come with their bullets and start shooting you, because that's what they do. And we talk about this all the time here on the show, right? But it's the same theme over and over and over again. Now, some people think Bitcoin's ridiculous, Ghost Rider, and some people, I've never really thought it was ridiculous in terms of like, if you can flip it and make money, right? It's like saying, well, realty is ridiculous. I generally find that the realty industry is shady, it's arrogant, it's ridiculous, right? I don't like dealing with realtors very much in most cases. It's all about manipulation and paperwork and fees, and it's kind of scammy, the realty industry, just like cars. Bitcoin, the problem with Bitcoin is it's just a fiat. And this is what I looked at when I first, years and years ago, when it was $30. I'm like, yeah, but why? Why does it have value? The problem with Bitcoin is it's not like this, right? And I covered this in this little video, but it was a lot shorter. It was only like 7-8 minutes. It's not this. Silver is not fiat because it's actually a precious metal that's used for things. Now, even if you say, well, it's still just money, but no, silver and gold are used for things. They're actual, tangible things. Not like a 25-cent piece that's fiat currency. Not like a $100 bill that's fiat currency. Fiat currency only has value because people want to trade it, right? And the Bitcoin's the same way. You're using all these computer resources, and it always seemed kind of silly. Like you buy these incredibly powerful computers so they can mine Bitcoin, which does nothing. It produces nothing, right? At least when you mine silver, you have a mine, right? You're processing. You're creating jobs and economy, and ultimately you're getting a product, a finished product out. See if we can do this. Okay, so that's silver. Bitcoin, I can't even do this. I can't do this with Bitcoin. Can I hit the camera alter button without seeing? No, I'm gonna mess it up. All right, that's the thing. There's nothing there. So if somebody wants to explain to me, I'm not offended if you like Bitcoin. I know lots of people. I've had, up to just a year or two ago, I had some Bitcoin. I had an Ethereum or two. I still have lots of other random little cryptos that are worthless. Because it interests me at times. And I'm a pragmatic person. If I can do something that's not dishonest, that I can turn around and make money, and I think maybe I made a few $100 on my Bitcoin because it was higher than when I bought it, right? I think when I sold it, it was about at 30, and then shortly after it went to 70, and I was like, well, rats, I could have made double, right? But I had paid more like, 18 for it or something. I didn't have that much. So the issue is that everyone has their thing, right? That's their stick. Instead of our passion being what Jesus told us to have it be, caring about others, loving our neighbor. Our passion becomes, this is science, this verse says this in the Bible, and therefore the earth is triangular earth forever, right? Or this Bitcoin, this is how we defeat the NWO. It's like if you want to defeat corruption, Obviously, we all have to make a living, right? If you can make a living and do it in an honest way, and if that's Bitcoin or whatever, do it. If it's crypto, do it. But it's resisting corruption and speaking out and using our voices to defend everybody equally. You know how many times I've had people like, I can't believe the Constitution is so disrespected, and I can't believe that they're not finishing Trump's wall. I'm like, you realize that what you're saying is completely contradictory to reason. The wall and the entire border concept of restricting immigration and putting people in jail for coming across is the antithesis of liberty and what the Constitution was supposed to protect. So really what these people are doing is they are simply consumed with their faction, right? That's their thing. And so I've seen this with the Bitcoin. What I was getting at is that this Bitcoin video, I could tell it offended some people. Not because I was saying Bitcoin is the worst thing ever. I was just saying like Bitcoin is collapsing and it doesn't really make any sense because there's nothing there. You don't even trade. In a way, Bitcoin is kind of worse than fiat currency. Because at least with a fiat dollar, I can go into a store and give them something, right? To actually go in and pay with Bitcoin, even if everyone accepted it, like a credit card, you're now still reliant on these big corporate networks to transfer the data, the internet companies. You have nothing tangible you can walk in. So you've gone from something that at least you could have a coin, right? Even if it wasn't silver, you could at least have a money and a coin and a bill and, pay someone without it being tracked in any fashion whatsoever. And now you have a system that inherently has to be tracked, and that, yes, there's ways to do it so it's kind of not tracked, even though there's a record of it, but at the same time, there's more risk and people get hacked and you lose all kinds of money. So like, what's the point? And this is the real problem with Bitcoin is people are trading it as a collectible. And that's what's driving. When it hits the news, it collapses. And then it hits the news and more people buy it. People are trading crypto not as currency, not as coin. They're trading it as a digital collectible. I have Bitcoin. Oh, look, everybody wants Bitcoin. Now the price of Bitcoin is up. Now I sell Bitcoin. Now I have dollars again that I can buy things. That's not to say that you can't buy anything with Bitcoin. I realize it's become fairly mainstream, but as it's done that, there's more control. The wrenches of the government, because the banksters and the corporations and the politicians are not going to let you have a digital currency that they don't control if it gets big, because they control the communications, they control the internet, they control the news. If you guys haven't realized that in the past 3 years with what they've done with the censorship and with getting their sickness promoted, then maybe you need to think it through a little, right? I'm trying to be kind tonight. Okay? So, Awakened. Thank you. Appreciate the tacos, Awakened. I can get 3 tacos right now for $1, right? They're pretty small tacos, but I can get 3 Pastor tacos for $1, which is pretty cool. But the rent is more than the tacos, so I appreciate it. A lot of things in the U.S. are scams, from the credit systems, mortgage loans, police jobs. In the U.S., people are not close. It's a one-up culture in the U.S. Nobody cares about no one. It's sad. That's true largely. I mean, obviously we have communities. It's socially cool now to help people out in the communal sense. But how often do you see people stopping to help people out when the police are harassing them? You see it more. You used to see it none. You guys remember how crazy, and we're still treated as crazies. The auditors all are. But do you remember when I first just started randomly stopping? Those videos are on this channel. When I first just started getting this feeling in my heart, like these police are screwing people over, I'm just going to stop and film and ask them questions. And most of the time, they escalated the situation in every case. I didn't go in there like, hey, you can't do that. I would just film, and they can't stand the light of day because they're cockroaches. That's what police are. They're people who have convinced themselves that they're going to be heroes, but they've chosen a life of crime the same as any other criminal. Now, it shouldn't be that way. There should be community protectors, and it's a job, and the community pays them to supervise in the sense of making sure that, crime and people's houses aren't being broken into. But in practice, it's just a control thing, because the government, of course, is the biggest criminals in the world. And so if the government directly is controlling the protectors, the police, the enforcers, obviously they're on the payroll of the criminals, of the cartel that is government, and they're part of that. They're not on the payroll really of the community. And it's the same problem here in Mexico, though, right? People have very little resources. Most people don't get paid that much. They're poor. And the police, they tow their cars, they screw them over. Obviously, the police, I've showed you guys, are way less violent. And when the line gets crossed, people will get pissed and just get in a fist fight with the cops. And it's a pretty normal occurrence. And the police usually tuck tail and run, because they're just as big as cowards. I mean, they're even more open about it. They don't even have the roids and the strut down here. They're just normal guys, normal, street thugs that have put on uniforms and are like, oh, I'm going to be a cop, because that's the only thing they can make it at. And then their goal is to get money by just petty bribes, extortion, making deals with tow companies, things like that. What the heck? That was a loud firework. Started on me. They're shelling the house, Martha. And yeah, crypto's decentralized. It's really? Because it looks more centralized every day to me. It's down to like a handful of major crypto exchanges. Sure, you can have it a wallet. When it was first started, when I first looked into it and had a tiny little bit of crypto, it was in a wallet file somewhere on my computer that I long ago lost before it got valuable. And I had such a tiny amount, it probably even by today's standards wasn't worth much, because it was free, right? It was like from faucets and stuff. But can't haul 1 million in gold across the state. Do you know how much 1 million in gold is? What's the price of gold right now, guys? Price of gold per pound. All right. So the price of gold is $20,000. So a million divided by 20,000. 20,000. I mean, yeah, that's 5 pounds of gold. So yeah, you can walk across the state with $1 million of gold. You could carry $1 million of gold in your horse all day long, right? Back in the day. And I'm not here chimping for gold and silver. I mean, I have some silver coins that I got a long time ago, and I still have. And I could sell them down here and get more or less what they're worth. In the different countries, it's a little bit different, but still, it's in a way, silver rounds and gold rounds are a universal currency. But I'm not here to chimp for that either. I'm just saying, I remember in the 90s, all the talk, the Rush Limbaughs and the Reagan show, all these shows were all about chimping gold rounds. That was the future. It was the Bitcoin of the day, right? It was untraceable. You could store it. It was stable, and it was decentralized. And then crypto, and those same people that were obsessed with gold, and that was the future, that hated the internet and computers and everything. Those same people, suddenly crypto was the solution. And it's decentralized. Well, it's only decentralized if you're not connecting with it to any networks in any case, because to actually use it, you have to centralize it. All right? And it's the same problem down here, though. And I was just talking to my dad about this recently. Like, people just don't stand up for each other. They just sit there and they watch the police screw people over, steal their cars. They're afraid, I know. But down here, people can actually run the police off. There was an incident not long ago where the police showed up in a nearby town. It's a tourist town, and they have these little cars because it's got very narrow streets. I don't know if I have a video. Bear with me. First of all, let me see if I have a video of Bernal that I can show you. So it's this little kind of town with this little mountain in it. It's kind of touristy. And where'd it go? Come on, silly thing. And this town is that's not it. But maybe we're on our way there. You got to protect yourself. All right, you got to protect yourself. Let me look in my video archive here and just see if I have one tag Bernal, just so I can give you a context of this story. Because the topic we're on right now is that people don't help each other nearly as much as they should anywhere. And in a place like Mexico, you could stand up. It doesn't take near as many people because the police aren't just allowed to gun you down. If I have anything for Bernal, and I'm not seeing it. I do have videos of Bernal, but I don't have anything tagged. So that's fine. Long story short is there's this town and it's got these hills and there's, all these vendors selling on the streets. On the weekends, it gets very busy. And they went in and a lot of these little vehicles, they're not motorcycles. I don't know what you call them exactly. A lot of these vehicles weren't registered, which is super normal down here. But and you generally get away with it if it's just your car, if you don't renew your tabs and stuff in Mexico. But if you're a commercial vehicle, the state likes to come down because they see money, right? They see money. And they rolled in with tow trucks into this town to start stealing their vehicles, stealing their little mini taxis. And the people were pissed because everybody knows here that the tow thing, the police, that's the difference here too, is the police are not looked at as heroes. Everybody knows the police are just corrupt crooks. I was trying to find some news stories and stuff, but it's all going to be in Spanish anyhow. Long story short, they come in and they're taking people's vehicles. These are people's livelihoods. And the people got pissed and 20 or so people showed up and they just started saying nope. And they started unloading their vehicles from the tow trucks. And the police were all there, but they couldn't do anything because it doesn't take very many people. The police are terrified of people, right? In the States as well. But in the States, they're not afraid to kill you and they have the resources to call in 4,000 backups. Here, that's not the way it works. If enough people manifest here, right, and just push them back, literally push them back, the police will eventually leave in almost every case. And that's how it works in Mexico. It's refreshing, but it doesn't happen still as often as you would think because people are still cowed. They're still cowed. And the police also, right, it's a street gang. The police are a street gang. So they know that it's best, usually it's the state that does these stupid things or the feds that really get people pissed off. Local cops generally don't engage in that sort of thing. They're going to engage in some poor guy with his burnout taillight trying to go home on a Friday night after a long day's work with no support and no money and just screw him over, steal his car or screw him over and get a 200 peso bribe, right? That's what they do. And that's the way it works. That's what these psychopaths do. They're in the business of stealing and killing and intimidation. And I think most police, through all of history, that's what they've done. Of course, police are a relatively new thing, right? I mean, the concept of police started with slave enforcement, slave patrol, is where if you follow it back to its history. But there's always been, whether it's soldiers or police or city watch, this same enforcement corruption in some form has existed. And what's happened, though, is it was a lot easier to avoid in the past, just like it's easier to avoid in general in Mexico. So what's happened is over the centuries, they've just piled on more and more and more fascism to the point where we think it's freedom. Right? When it's even just a little bit less, we're like, oh, it's getting better. And we have so much less freedom now than people did 300 years ago, right? So anyways, what else? Anything else we need to cover? We've had 2 super chatters in there, and I'm going to support my super chatters. And so officially I was going till 8:30, but they added 40 minutes to that time. And I'm just trying to think what else. The main topic, of course, is going to be the police chase. So I'll cut that out, and that'll probably be on the channel tomorrow, because I think we had a good discussion about that. No, if you look into police fits, I'm not saying that the idea of enforcers didn't exist. Guards, city watch, all this kind of stuff. But the concept of these modern police we have, they patrol, they detain you on the streets, things like that. They're out looking for people. in violation. Those actually go back, I believe it started officially in England, but it was actually based, the concepts of it were based on the slave patrols that would hunt slaves, is my understanding of it. And I'm not the history expert on this, but I have looked into it. But I think the bottom line, whether somebody says I'm right or wrong on this, and you can do your own research, is that enforcers for criminals are criminals. They're there to intimidate. They're extortioners. And that's all the government is criminals. I don't know if there's any government that exists that's not criminal. I think when you just have a community coming together to protect their community and saying, hey, we're not going to let raiders come into the town, in a way, that's a government, right? You might have a town council or something like that. But as these things grow, and then it becomes about force and control, as soon as your government is to the point where you have, I think this is where the line is. You could have a community government. What is government? Well, now we see these giant offices, rules, bureaucracy, paper. They love their bureaucracy and paperwork down here in Mexico. It's absolutely ridiculous to try and deal with their paperwork. Like, you can't do things online. It's like the 80s. It's like when you watch like the Cosby Show or something from way back, and they're going through like bureaucracy in New York City and trying to find, it's like that now. You like to have the nasty, bitter old lady in the office, and you have to file a paper for something. Oh no, that letter's in the wrong spot and you lack page 7A. I mean, that's literally the attitude of like their clerks and stuff here. And their whole paperwork system is absolutely a joke. It's not even productive for making them money. That's what blows me away. And this is what I say about the U.S. The U.S. is screwing us over. You get fined, you get permits, you do all this stuff. But the U.S. is organized at screwing you over, right? You're gonna screw me over, but it's gonna be pretty easy for me as long as I have the cash. Down here, they want to screw you over, but they don't even make it easy if you want to submit to being screwed over. Does that make sense? No, but that's how stupid government is. That's how stupid and corrupt and disorganized a government is. So the U.S. is much more organized. And so in a lot of ways, when you look at little things, you could say, well, in certain things, the police don't really get away with taking bribes on the street in the U.S., but they don't have to. They're getting paid $100,000, $200,000 a year, right? Whereas police in Mexico are getting paid, $4,000 or $5,000 a year. And they make up the difference by screwing people over. And that's more traditionally how soldiers and police and stuff do things. The U.S. got organized over the years. And they figured out, oh, wait a minute. If we control our officers, they can be as psycho and egotistical and abusive as they want, as long as their entire goal is bringing us power, right? It's like a peerage system. It's like titles of nobility almost. And so they give them these titles and they can go out and abuse people and do their thing. As long as they're following the rules and driving money back in, they're going to be rewarded and given bonuses and vacations and raises. See how this works? So what happened is the U.S. government and the federal government got so big and powerful, and after World War II, the propaganda, they figured out propaganda, how to manipulate the people on a massive level like never before. And after that, they realized, okay, we've made the people super nationalistic, go, rah, rah, America, and they just kept going. And then they realized the more we propaganda and the more we organize, the more we make. And the more power we get. And that, it's genius really, when you think about it. Like, the US is not stupid in the way they do it. They're very intentional about all of these things. Now, let me just see, since we're on the topic, bar fighting, people eat bugs. People who eat bugs people will eat bugs and know nothing and be happy about it. That's about right. To be fair, if you're talking about my story, because I've been posting a lot of shorts here on YouTube, and if you're missing those, that's where I show the little tidbits from the streets down here. And I posted a video. Let me show you the video because it's in my shorts. I'm getting disorganized here, so let me go to here. Let me go to here, and we'll go to my content, and we'll go to this short. Where is it? Right here. Let's throw this up. And so, yeah, I put these shorts up, and what you guys can do if you have questions on the short I put up, we'll talk about it more on our live stream shows, right? But I think I got this short working. All right. Why is there no sound? There we go.
See, it's grasshoppers. Toasted.
So this is, these are toasted grasshoppers right in the street.
Just like John.
Speaking of that, bar fighting.
You gonna say something? Go.
So this is just the public market, and they're selling toasted crickets, more like.
¿De dónde son? ¿Desde cerca aquí? Puebla. Ah, de Puebla.
So yeah, eat your bugs and be happy about it. What's the big deal? Although, to be fair, bugs are a food in most of the world. It's the U.S. I get very squeamish about the foods down here sometimes that go beyond tacos, because I mean they eat the intestines and the stomachs and the insides, and they have pancita. Pancita is basically like the stomach, and they like put meat in it and then just like boil it overnight. I've been to a place one morning that was selling this, like pancita de res. The smell was, and the people with me were like, "Oh, que rico," and I was like, "Oh, I want to vomit," because it was like a cow's stomach. It was disgusting, and they laugh at me because I can't handle these things. But yeah, chapulines is these grasshoppers. Cucarachas are cockroaches. There are places that eat those, but I haven't seen them eating those in Mexico. I think that's more of an Asia thing. So bar fighting, thank you. Awkward Pennsylvanian. You don't own anything anyways. Don't pay your property taxes and they take your ass. That's right. In general, with private houses, they still have property taxes here. You know what they do down here? Because violent enforcement. Let me finish the insect. We'll come back to that awakened. Violent enforcement generally doesn't go over real well, right? If it's visible. Obviously, there's plenty of violence from corrupt people down here. But no, it's actually a thing. If you go, they eat insects, and then sometimes they take it to extremes. There's a restaurant actually in Mexico City where you can eat spiders. They have that might be a cricket. That might be a cockroach. But no, they have like spider tacos, tarantula tacos, these horrifying things. And I think this is not normal street food in Mexico, right? These are like, this is kind of shock and awe. But no, we're talking about tacos that cost like $50. These are like extreme, like exotic stuff that you can get. Mexico City is a different breed, okay? There's Mexico. The states in Mexico, all of them tend to be very distinct in their cultures, and Mexico City is its own thing. Querétaro State is kind of like Boston. Querétaro City is rather, and Querétaro State is like Massachusetts. It was the center of the revolution. They're very uppity. They think they're really special. And in reality, because they think that it's a more prosperous state. In the past, it's been more peaceful, but that's changing now because they've allowed the corruption. In reality, because of the uppityness, now it's coming around to bite them. They're getting totally screwed over. The violence is increasing and starting to cross over into Querétaro, in Querétaro City especially. And the corruption is out of control because people don't stand up. They don't defend their neighbors. They're like, oh, we're Querétarans. Like, that'll never happen here. And so they really do remind me of kind of the Boston type crowd in terms of not that there's not great people here. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I live here, right? But the state symbol for Querétaro should be like a Mexican woman all dressed up with her nose up in the air. That should be their state logo, because that is how things rule. But back to this topic of awakened, what was I coming to with that? I was talking about taxes, like property taxes. So enforcement by violence generally isn't good. So they don't enforce that heavily, for example, your tabs. People don't renew their license plates and their tags. They're trying to start that in this state. They're trying to push this more US-ified stuff so they can jack people's cars and stuff for violations. But if you know how to stand up for your rights, you still do fine most of the time. But they'll try. And because they're in cahoots with the tow companies and stuff like that, and they make a lot of money for towing cars. Property taxes exist here as well. But I've never heard of anyone having their home taken for not paying property taxes. Where they'll get you, a lot of the properties have just been in the family and they're not officially registered, right? But the problem is if you go to sell them, People don't want to get their properties officially registered because then you got to pay taxes on them. But as a person, particularly an outsider, you don't want to buy a property here that's not officially registered because it's so easy to get scammed and screwed over, especially as a foreigner. If you're coming here as a gringo, never buy something that the papers aren't totally in order. You go to There we go. We should be back. Batteries drained. So that's right, battery. And it's more or less the same with cars, right? And so if you have a house that is registered and you're not paying your property taxes, and so they try and do incentives like, oh, if you pay your property taxes, you have included insurance, right? You get flood insurance or something. And it's probably crappy insurance, but the government is so desperate because people don't pay very much that they try and actually put incentives into the property tax and say like, you'll get a bonus, like you have a bonus if you paid the property tax, you have insurance included. I don't know what that covers or to what extent it goes. If you don't pay your property tax, they don't come in with a SWAT team and steal your house. When you go to sell your house officially, they're going to nail you then, right? That's how they're going to do it. Now, if businesses are different. If you have a business, it's seen as that private property level. The private property in the house is very sacred here. Like the police will almost never enter a home unless they genuinely have a warrant. And they probably couldn't enter if they want because it's concrete and steel doors and gates and walls on most of the homes. But if it's battery tax, if you don't have If you have a business, federal taxes are a different thing. Hacienda is the same as IRS, and they will come in and screw you over and steal your stuff on a business level. That doesn't apply really to owning a home so much. But if you're not paying your cut on a business level, they will shut you down and screw you over. And they're really bad at defending their rights on a business level because the home is seen as this very private property, like sacred thing, but the business is more seen like a public place. And light here is every 2 months. And, municipal services suck. I have battery fit backups and filters and stuff on this because the power always goes out. This varies. This town's pretty bad. The water always goes out here. And electricity is not cheap. I mean, here's my electric bill for the past 2 months, and it's $250, right? So this is not, the electricity is not cheap here. How much is it per kilowatt hour? It's a little confusing the way they do it. But yeah, because you have a federal electrical company, right? Now you could put solar generators or something like that. But the CFE, the side of the CFE structure is super corrupt. Like if you have a business and your transformer fails, you have to bribe them just to get them to fix their own equipment. It's so bad. CFE is the electrical company. The water is normally like a county level thing, and they're usually incompetent, but CFE is criminally incompetent. They are a cartel basically. And the power company is federal. It's a federal power system, which is one thing we actually do have an advantage of in the States, is we normally don't let those kind of things go federal. They're still federally regulated. The feds control them, but normally your power is on a state or county level. But some areas are really bad for power and they screw you over. When I lived in Eastern Washington, because we have all that hydropower, electricity is very accessible, right? But it's not the same all over the US. And no, not 250 pesos, 250 US dollars. 5,200 pesos is my electric bill. Most people don't pay near this much for electric. Most people pay $10 for their electric bill. What they do is if you're a super low user, and I'm not using that much here, it's pretty crazy, right? But most small little houses will pay $10, $15 for electricity a month. What they do is it's a tiered system. And so if you go over a certain amount, they radically jack your price up because now you're counted in the rich class. And I sure don't feel that way as I try and figure out where I'm going to get the $250 next week to pay this. But that's how their system works. I really should go to the solar that's on my RV. I actually have the inverters, and I could wire in the solar that's on my RV into the house, so I'm back feeding power into the grid and lowering my stuff. But I have so little time lately, guys. I'm just kind of working my ass off all the time. All right? All the time. I'm just looking here. And Ola, I'm watching all your guys' chats. I'm just seeing this here. We're up to about an hour. People have been putting. I'm gonna go up to like 9:15 at this point, just to cover all the super chats you guys did, because I always tell you $1. I add 1 minute to the time of the live stream, up to about 2 hours. I have a limit because I'm actually not feeling that great today, and my voice will start losing it. And yes, that's roughly about $250 USD. And yeah, so they have no problem. And for example, if you live in a more rich part of town, which I don't really, but when I rented a house that was in the nicer part of Centro, the water was outrageous. The water is a quarter here of what it was there, because it's like, oh, this is the rich area, you pay more. So they definitely have this kind of tax the rich kind of mindset, even though usually you're not actually rich, right? You just might have something nice. And of course, you could bring in a truck of water. You're not going to go to jail for collecting rainwater here. So things like that are not, you're still much more free. But dealing with the government is still a sucky experience. You can rent a house in Mexico in San Juan del Rio, for example. Mine's more than that, and more than I would like, because it's a little bigger, but it also has property to put my vehicles and stuff on. But a normal house, a two-bedroom, one, maybe two-bath house, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, kitchen, living room, probably 600 to 800 square feet. Pretty nice, not slumming it, in good shape, with maybe a little patio, a little driveway, a front gate that locks. In San Juan del Rio goes right now for about 5,000 pesos. So about $250 a month for a nice little 2-bedroom, not an apartment, a house. An apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment, probably more like $150 to $200. And of course, this varies depending on where you're at. Querétaro is not a cheap state. San Juan del Rio isn't the most expensive city in Querétaro. But if you were in Sonora, if you were in Oaxaca, these prices would be different. And there's lots of people paying $50 a month for their house rent as well. But I'm talking about what you could actually go to find on the streets right now. Yeah, for $250, you could get a nice little house. I pay quite a bit more than that because I have a 4-bedroom house. I have this office. I have 3 baths. It's not huge and super ritzy or anything, but it has some property, and property is very valuable down here. Especially in these central areas, right? We're in the central part of the country, so it's like being in the New England states where things are very condensed and expensive. So let's see. Just looking back to our topic. Is it more expensive in the USA? I'm assuming we're talking about electricity. It depends on where you're at in the USA. I think electricity is a little more expensive here than I paid. Yeah, I think it's more expensive here than I paid in Eastern Washington. But Eastern Washington has some of the lowest electricity in the country, maybe in the world, because we're producing it all right there at Grand Coulee Dam and on all the other dams on the Columbia River. So it is very, very cheap there. What else, you guys? We've done the car chase. We've gone over. We've even talked about crickets. We had a good group tonight, you guys. I mean, we're almost to 9:15, and we've had 80 to 100 people all night long, which I think is great. It's a good start. I'm going to keep doing these. If you guys keep supporting these, and I want to shout out to our channel backers. I put 3 tiers now on the channel backers, and so on the channel backing tiers. There's the expensive one to just support the channel, and then there's a couple other tiers for if you want to contribute a little bit more, get some extra perks like actually getting shouted out on every live stream for our other backers, things like that, just to help keep producing more videos. Because I would really like to start putting a lot of energy in 2023 into this channel. and start raising the level of the content, the quality, doing more of it. But I have to be able to generate some revenue from it and feed the family, and that's kind of the issue at this point. And so I'm still experimenting. That's why I've been doing so many videos the past couple weeks since I did the cops called on me for not tipping video. And yeah, I think getting property is hard in Mexico. No, getting property isn't hard. But it depends on where you're at. And large quantities of land they don't give away. People like to hold on to their land. So yeah, if you want to buy a house on a lot with a driveway, you can do that all day long. It's not an issue. I would say, rent a lot of times is cheaper because the percentage of rent ratio to the value of the house is a lot higher in the US. Whereas here, the percentage of rent ratio to the value of a property is a lot lower. So a house that, you could buy a house like I described for probably $100,000, something like that, right? But to rent it, it's only $250 a month. So, that's the thing. I generally tell people that are coming to Mexico, first, just come on a vacation, come visit, right? Just drive around and explore. Next, if you want a place here, don't feel like you have to buy because you might change your mind on where your favorite place. You need to explore. You need to get the feel of the place, right? So don't buy right away until you know an area because it's so cheap to rent. Even if you want a house, rent a house for a year and then decide what you want to do is what I would recommend. Power has doubled in the USA in 1 year, 300 to 400 for a house like yours. And that could be, I don't know. I've been out of the States for 5 years, and sometimes I'm in shock when I see how I'm like, man, things are getting expensive here, right? I'm paying, $5. I'm paying $5 for a pound of coffee. What is wrong with it? What's happening to Mexico? But then I hear what people are saying they're paying for things in the States. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess it's been going crazy there too. So you have to understand that when I talk about the States, I talk to you guys, I talk to family. It's not like I'm completely unaware of what's going on in the States, but street prices and what it actually costs to go do things, diesel being $7 a gallon, things like that is not something I've experienced. So in my subconscious, I'm still thinking at 5 year ago prices in the US. And I think it's crazy. It's crazy. Where do you go to rent a house? The first place I would go is when you find a town that you like. There's two things you can do. If your Spanish is good and you're making friends and it's a small community, you just ask around. And that's the best way to find a good deal. The second is just the Facebook marketplace, and you search for casas en renta. And you'll find lots of them that way. And the third, and a lot of the ones in the marketplace are also part of this third, is go to a realty agency. I mean, you have places like Century 21. Absolutely hate dealing with them. You think places like Century 21, their paperwork is bad and ridiculous and their rental requirements are ridiculous in the States. They are, you really just want to slap them when you deal with Century 21 down here. And I've dealt with them a few times. But they've come down here from the States. They have a lot of power down here in realty because they put a foothold down here. But you can, of course, rent direct. If you can rent direct from someone, it's better, right? Because especially if you're just a visitor, they're not going to care about visas and things like that. The contract will be very informal, just like, okay, this is what we agree to. So if you can find a direct person to deal with, it's not a realty company, and you want to rent a place, it is easier, but it might take you a little longer. You might have to, chat around, but you might also just go to Facebook and find something. And there's that. Spanish people come to me on the street and start speaking Spanish, so I must blend in. Yeah, the one thing that now that I can speak Spanish, I think it would be cool to go to some of the Spanish-speaking areas that I grew up in and just chat with people. Because we always were on two sides of the fence, right? And I saw them as like the immigrants. And with, just this, not that I had anything against them, but at the same time, the U.S. we're raised to be racist, right? People that aren't like us, they're different. We don't socialize with them. It's not like it's now I just look at the world completely differently. I think diesel is about $4.50 down here, maybe even a little higher. It's pretty high right now. Gas is running around $4 a gallon in most of Mexico, and it varies, of course, but doesn't vary as widely as it does in the States, because again, the gas is very heavily controlled on a federal level as well, and a lot of corruption, a lot of cartel activity. It's very common for the criminal organizations to tap the gas pipelines. That often results in large-scale violent encounters, large-scale explosions. There was an incident, and this goes to just like the people need to get together and unite down here and get organized and think for themselves, quit letting people think for them, and think as a community, not just think like, because people can be very friendly, very loving down here, helping each other out, giving each other food. But for some reason, when business enters in, the business culture here can be very toxic and screw people over. And that I don't like. I don't like doing business that way. There was an incident 2 years ago, I think, where a gas main had been cut into to steal gas, I believe, and then left. So the gas was just pouring into this field and filling it up. So you imagine a field, like a farming field, but it had been turned into a lake of gasoline. And the people were like, oh, free gas. And hundreds of people just started flocking there. And the police were trying to cordon off. For once, the police tried to do something useful, right? Because people were being so stupid just to save themselves $20. And they were going and finding containers and buckets and going down there and to a field that was literally just filled in gas. And you know how this ends. I mean, it's obvious. You don't have to be a genius to go to a field that people are waiting around filled with gasoline, and they're running out with pails and containers, trying to take the gasoline off the ground, to know that you want to be far away from there. And as expected, somehow a spark got lit off and the whole thing went up. And I want to say it was like 60 people that it blew away. And then, of course, lots of collateral damage and injuries. And so stuff like that happens. Stuff like that happens everywhere. But because it's good that, it's less regulated here, which is good. But that doesn't mean we can ignore common sense. That doesn't mean like, oh, there's no regulation, there's no OSHA, so I'm just gonna grab a high tension power line. Like, we have to use our heads and not be stupid. And it's really sad to see these things. But yeah. Do I feel free? No, I don't feel free. I don't think there's any in the world. I feel like there's, and everybody I know, Fitz has been here. I've hung out with Fitz down here. Some of these people in this chat have been here. Pretty much everybody I know that's been to hang out in Mexico is like, oh, there's so much more freedom here. But I've been here for 5 years. I know the language. I do business here. And so I do see the underbelly more than you do in your first 6 months. And there's plenty of corruption going on. Yes, there is a lot more personal freedom. I love the fact, to me, it's important that I can run from a cop, right? If I come to a checkpoint, they're like, stop, we're going to look in your car. I'm like, no, you're not, and I'm not blowing into your thing. Bye, and I drive away, and nothing happens. That level of being able to say no is higher here, and I think that goes to a lot to freedom. I think being out in the ocean sounds great, but you're not free there either. I mean, you have the Coast Guard, you go far enough out, there's always somebody trying to control you. But I get what you're saying, Mr. Boston. So, and yeah, probably someone was smoking. I mean, someone lit a match, someone smoked. All it takes is a spark. And obviously you have a field full of gasoline. It's literally just a bomb waiting for somebody to do something wrong. The idea that you would wade out into a field of gasoline, but it really should make you think, like, would I do that? Like, if I had a 5-gallon bucket in the back of the car, would I go try and scoop it up and get some free gas? Well, don't. And we have to really think for ourselves. And Mr. Boston, they don't bother you, but I guarantee if you were doing something significant, if you were making money in a large amount, if you were helping, if you were making an underground railroad to help bring immigrants in because of the psychotic border and our abuse of human rights, they would bother you. And that's the problem, is like it's everywhere. But it's at different levels in different places. Even in the States, it's different levels depending on where you live, but you still have the feds, right? So there's really nowhere that it's free. But I think I've filled out my super chat time. I'm getting tired. It's getting late. So I should probably go wrap up my other chores for the night. And I do appreciate these. I got $50 in super chat tonight. I don't like to make this about money, but I have bills to pay too. And so I'm actually looking at, hey, what can we do on this channel that benefits all of us? Because I will do more on this channel and produce more videos. I love making videos, guys. Like, I love taking photos and I love making videos. I don't like day job stuff. That's no fun. I've lacked the resources to do as much as I can down here the past couple years, just because business has sucked online and things like that. And because I want to build more down here. I'm actually dipping my toes in business stuff down here and figuring out, and when you get into business stuff down here, their tax system for businesses and stuff like that is outrageous. And obviously, if you're visible, like there's lots of businesses that just operate undercover, little taco shops, people selling stuff without permits. But if you're a visible business with a storefront and you do nothing and you don't pay anything, like, yeah, they're gonna come for you still. So it's crazy. But it was great to see you. At the moment, we don't have a live schedule. And I did a live stream like yesterday in the afternoon just as an experiment, but I felt like you were all working. I feel like tonight, I thought Friday night we wouldn't have much. So I don't know if we have a lot of viewers just because I had a good topic tonight or because everyone's bored on a Friday night and we actually want to be here hanging out and chatting. Appreciate it, Ghost Rider. So, but I'm trying to do at least one of these a week, and I'll probably stick to the evenings because I feel like it works better. And then I try to cut out a video. One thing that does help is that engagement. So like if you see my videos, click through them, hit a like, leave a comment, even if it's not your topic and you don't want to watch the whole thing. Obviously watch time helps the algorithm as well. But the likes, anytime you hit the like button, hit the bell icon. And all of you in here, please, right now, hit the bell icon. Bar fight, and appreciate all the support in here tonight. Hit that bell icon so that when I go live or when I post a video, you're at least notified. And even if you aren't interested in the video, if you want to support my work, at least open the video and like it, even if you don't watch it, because even that helps the algorithm. I have my friend's new car. She can't take it to Mexico. Yeah, you can totally take a car to Mexico. I have 2 U.S. cars that I brought to Mexico, and I have one that I bought here. Unless, the only exception to that is sometimes if the car's on a loan and you have a bank that's cranky, they don't want to give you permission to bring it. So you may or may not, because they didn't actually check for permission. Like technically, if it's a car that's loaned, you're supposed to have a document from the bank saying, yeah, you can cross the border. But this was 4 or 5 years ago now, and they always change the rules and try and make them, screw people over more. But they didn't even check for that paper. I mean, I brought my RV in, I brought the Truth van in, all this kind of stuff. So I appreciate it, Jay. Boston, yeah, you're right. 2 more likes to 100. Yeah, get that likes to 100. What do we got? 101 likes. And those likes help, right? These live streams after the fact are too long to go viral or anything. It's not that exciting what we're talking about here. It's just the show. It's the Gavin show. But yes, gracias a todos. Buenas noches. A mis amigos en la norte. Muchas gracias por el apoyo. Y por los tacos de pollo y también de carne de res y de puerco. Muchas gracias desde mi corazón por eso. All right. So it's, I don't actually eat tacos. Okay, I eat tacos more than I should. I was going to say, I don't actually eat tacos every day, though. That's not the only food here. People have that perspective. As gringos, and yes, hit that bell. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. As gringos, we think anything in a tortilla is a taco. And my dad was laughing about this the other day. He's like, they use tortillas for everything, right? We're like, we buy a kilo of tortillas, which is 2.3 pounds, right? 2.3 pounds of tortillas costs $1. All right, tortillas are the absolute basic, like flatbread, most fundamental staple. And you can literally, I mean, if you go to the taqueria in the morning or up through the midday, they're just rolling out of the machine fresh. Like you give me a kilo of tortillas, you give them $1, you get 2.3 pounds of tortillas, and they're still hot. So when they're that fresh, they're so good that you can just snack on them. And my dad's like, they use tortillas as a spoon, like they munch on them. They put things in them. They dip them in their soup. They scoop their food with it. The tortilla is everything in terms of the food. And I would actually like to do a Spanish channel. If I could get this channel plus my other channel paying my bills here, I would start putting way more emphasis into creating content in general, because you don't want everything condensed into one channel anyhow, because YouTube is not actually our friends, right? So you want different channels. And so I would actually start doing different channels on different topics. I would start having employees on some of those other topics. This channel would probably still remain my personal channel, but I would do a Spanish channel. I might do like a tech reviews channel. I might do a tech reviews channel in Spanish. But obviously I can't manage content on that many things. To have 3 or 4 or 5 fully active channels, I'm not Linus, right? I don't have a team of 50 people. And yeah, paper plates are actually very difficult. Not very difficult, but they're not readily sold here. Most of the time they're crappy foam plates, and paper plates are expensive here. And maybe it's because the taco is a paper plate. So yeah, I'm trying to grow all this stuff, but I think it's funny that the tortillas, because we think if you take meat and put it on a taco, right? You have dobladitas, you have tacos, you have quesadillas, you have enchiladas, all these things that use tortillas. You have tostadas, which are they're the flat round taco, right? The hard shell, not like a hard shell like a US taco. Those aren't actually tacos. If it's a tostada, you put like shrimp on a tostada, right? But a lot of taco shops also give you, a lot of times the tostadas are actually just the leftover tacos. The leftover tortillas that weren't used, because they don't like to throw anything away. So I think really the origin of the tostada, the hard shell, the hard round shell, is the used up tortillas that are no longer fresh. You let them harden, and then you can eat them that way as crunchy. I mean, like when I say they throw nothing away, it's kind of mind-boggling. The way that they don't throw stuff away. They will steal. I've had the lid stolen, like one of those metal 55-gallon drums that I use as a garbage can. I have a video from the security camera of an old lady coming by and stealing the lid off my garbage can. Presumably everybody in town was laughing at it to use as a comal, which is what you put over. You have a stone fire ring in your house, and you put a metal sheet over it, and you cook on it. You cook tacos, you cook meat. And so literally stole the lid off my barrel garbage can so they could cook food on it. I mean, like, things are not wasted, and sometimes they're stolen. You don't see bikes for sale for $10 down here. And yeah, that's the tortilla chip. You can buy still tortilla chips in the bag at the grocery store that are gringo style. A Spanish stream would be fun. I feel like my Spanish is still weak to carry on. I can have conversations, and I'm getting better at Spanish. I don't know how many people understand Spanish. Si voy a hablar en español y tengo un video en vivo en español. Vamos a platicar sobre la policía. En Estados Unidos la policía son locuras. Son psicopáticos. Es ridículo. Se mata a la gente en las calles y todo. En México también la policía son corruptos. Y necesito que la Puebla juntos en eso, amigos. Necesito que la Puebla juntos contra la corrupción. Esta policía no tiene valores. No tienes coraje. No son fuertes. Pero si nosotros son cobardes también, si no defienden a la Puebla, a nuestros vecinos, pues esta policía, estos políticos, siempre vas a regresar a chingarnos. Y así es México. Y por esa falta de resistencia, de valor, por eso México no sube más alto, más fuerte, y con paz. All right, so that's Spanish. But the problem with Spanish is I feel like my Spanish has to get really good to do a channel that Mexicanos in general would listen to. When I speak, even if on the street it's fine, they're glad I'm speaking Spanish. But if I'm a public figure speaking Spanish, I get mocked by so many people. The racism is actually very strong here. If we come as tourists, we're treated very well. And in general, people are very friendly and amable here, and they respect us. But there is a lot of undertone because the US has taken advantage of them so much too, right? So there's a little bit of kind of this employee thing that employees do to their employers too. Like, they've screwed us over, so we're going to screw them over and get something back. And that doesn't work very You guys, that doesn't work very well on me anymore because I've been here for long enough. But it's still difficult. Like if I'm dealing with something expensive and I want to ask a price, I might send one of my Mexicano friends or employees to take care of it because I don't want the gringo price. And I sometimes can tell when they're giving me the gringo price, and I'll be like, no, manches, this is la precio de gringos. Dame la precio, verdad. They usually don't respond well to that. But I don't buy anything from them when they try and pull that garbage on me. So yeah, I don't know. I don't do much with posting activist video. I still film, and I talk to you guys about it on this channel sometimes. But I try not to share that much because I just get, they just are very, and I get the people that are on social media and Facebook are generally the most brainwashed, right? The people on the streets do not support police. People will come down and be trolling my videos and saying, in Hidalgo, we support the state police. And I'm like, you obviously don't live here, faker, because you pose But there's a huge amount of Spanish-speaking propaganda as well. And so, but it is difficult because I sound stupid. I was in somebody's house recently, and there was a show, and there was a gringa in the show, but it was like a Mexican telenovela. But there was a gringa in this show that lived there and was speaking Spanish. But she was in the show. She was a gringa, right? She wasn't trying to be, pretending not to be. And I listened to her, and I'm like, oh, do I sound like that? Because that's awful. And they're like, yeah, pretty much. And I was just like, oh. So I don't really know how horrible my Spanish sounds to a native. I just know that they laugh a lot. And I don't mind them laughing like, oh, his grammar is really funny. But when I'm trying to do something serious and all they can talk about is the way I talk and how bad my accent is, it's difficult to be taken seriously. It's difficult, I think, in any part of the world. Just like we treat outsiders crappy. Like it's human nature to treat people like crap. Human beings suck. That's what we do to each other. And that's why I'm always speaking against it so heavily, that we got to treat everybody as equals. Appreciate it, Def Bread. And hay más palabras en español. Yeah. Pues, hay más reglas en inglés, pero español. Here's the problem with Spanish. If you get an app like Duolingo or Memrise or something like that, and you learn it all. You do the entire Spanish tree. And I've known people that did this. They did the entire Spanish tree on Duolingo. And you come here and you actually go to the streets. You're not going to be able to communicate. There's levels. Hay niveles, amigo. So you have what the app teaches you is the formal Spanish, the correct Spanish, which is stupid. It doesn't teach you the slang variants of the slang. It doesn't teach you the vulgarities. It doesn't teach you the mumbling. And it could teach you a lot of this, but it doesn't. We're going to teach correct Spanish. The problem is, yes, you know a lot of words. And if you finish the Spanish tree and come here, after a year or two, you'll be speaking Spanish because you'll have the fundamentals down, right? But I could take any level Spanish speaker, unless he was fluent completely, and take him I'm going to take you to this friend. You won't have any idea what he's saying, right? So the more, the different neighborhoods, it's it's like going to the Bronx almost. And they have just the slang they use. I've literally, and I get accustomed to it, but I'll be like, oh, I'm getting pretty good at my Spanish. And then I'll meet, oh, here's my friend, and I'll meet a new person. And I'm like, excuse me? What language is that? Because I have Spanish, bro. Right? And that's just, so you do have to be immersed on the streets. And I'm immersed on a daily basis now in Spanish. And so now I understand a lot of, and then they really laugh if I start using their mild vulgarities and things like that. And I don't want to be vulgar either, but it's difficult sometimes. I just hear words and I repeat them. And then sometimes whoa, you're not supposed to say that. And I'm like, oh, why? I heard you say it. Yeah, but that's different, right? So it's crazy. There's Sandra in there, baby. Taxi travel. Yeah, if you speak Spanish and you talk, you can negotiate and things like that. But things like news, subtitles in movies are a great companion if you're not in the country to an app, right? Because I love subtitles in movies. Either listen to the movie, a Spanish movie in its native language, once you get a little more advanced, or even just to start out watching an English movie and just putting Spanish subtitles on. I do that all the time, even now. A lot of times now I know they're wrong, right? So I'll see the subtitles and be like, that is not the word that should go there because they got the slang wrong or something like that. And it was, they did a direct translation and it shouldn't have been. So you can tell sometimes the people doing the subtitles are not native speakers. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're whack. And I think news, things like that. And there's a lot of great apps, right? There's a lot of great YouTube channels. The problem with learning the language is until you're there, it's difficult to force yourself to be immersed, right? If you consumed enough content. But even then, if you watch the news, if you watch movies, subtitles, they're going to do grammatically correct translations. And the problem is, okay, so like, let me show you the difference, if I can. ¿Qué pasa, amigo? ¿Qué estás haciendo hoy? Ah, muy bien, buenas tardes. Right? That's how an app would teach you. These are like words that are correct, normal, formal Spanish. Real life, when someone rolls up to you in the barrio here. Güey, ¿qué onda? Entonces, ¿qué chingada, güey? ¿Qué vamos a hacer hoy, eh? Vamos, vamos. So like, you see the difference? I'm saying basically the same thing, but the words, the context, the slang, the flair, it's completely different. So, and you're going to have levels of that, right? Depending on if you're going to a business, they're going to use more formal words, right? If you go to the department store, you're going to understand better because they're not going to be using, rough neighborhood slang. If you go to the taqueria, it's somewhere in the middle, right? It's going to be lower than the department store. But they're going to be talking like a business, right? Same with the tire shop. You go to the mechanic, it's going to be a little level below that. You go to a concert, you're probably not going to understand anything. You go with a friend to the barrio to hang, and you're going to be learning some new words, probably a lot of which you're not supposed to repeat in polite company, but you aren't necessarily going to know that. And when you say them, most people are just going to laugh and be like, yeah, you're not supposed to say that. They're not that defensive about things like that. But yeah, that's kind of how it works. And so they say, oh, that's a bad word. You can't use that word. And then you go to their house and they use that word all the time. And you're like, but wait, you said that's a bad word. Yeah, but that's different. We're in our house. This is my sister. He's my friend, right? So the rules in English, in English, our bad words you can pretty much count on your hands. In Spanish, there's a dictionary of bad words and all their variants, right? That's probably as large. The slang, the vulgarities, the insults, and the bad words, that's the problem. It's as large of a volume of words, maybe more, than the actual Spanish language. So it can be confusing. And it can be confusing when, right? You don't want to use bad words, but sometimes you don't want to speak too formal. What in one context could be a bad word, in another context might just be casual conversation, and it's perfectly appropriate. And so it's way more contextual. Spanish is vastly more contextual than English. English has all these rules, and obviously we have slang and street terms and stuff like that. But in general, I would say Spanish is much more situational and contextual than that. So there's a lot. I don't know what a pina colada is, but anyways. So yeah, I've gone over time. It is late. I'm exhausted. I'm going to call it. Thank you guys for the super chats, for the likes, helps the channel out. I'm going to take our police chase video. You guys can share that later if you want, because most people are seeing, I think, this police chase. And that's why I wanted to do a video tonight with like, oh, crazy guy steals car, police fix the problem. That's not what happened at all. The police fixed nothing. The police created the problem. And I want people to start understanding that. I can't really speak Castellano. It's like, I can speak a little bit of Colombian from hearing from shows, right? Still Spanish, right? And I've been to Colombia. It's like, yeah, güey, vamos a la café. And I can now understand, like if I hear a Colombian accent, I'm like, oh, that's a Colombian accent. Castellano, which is Spanish Spain, which Mexicans, of course, make fun of. Ontas, yeah. That's how they do it. That's how they do their words, like abbreviations. But Spanish Spain is, of course, the same language, so you can understand it fine, but they have distinct accent, and it's kind of made fun of a little bit. But in movies, of course, it's used very prolifically. It's like we make fun of British English, but it's still sexy, right? We make jokes about the way Australians talk, mate, or the Southerners, but it's still kind of seen as attractive. And there's some accents in English that we don't see as very attractive. So it just depends. But yeah. Anyways, let's see. I don't even know what Latinx is other than I've heard it on the news. But we don't speak it here. English is numerically perfect in reverse, something like that, yeah. No, Spanish is much more logical, the basic forms of the language, the conjugations. But since we're not used to logic being English speakers, it's different. V is pronounced like a B. Kind of. It's kind of in between. There's a lot of words that are kind of in between, like mi bato. So it's V, but it kind of is this B sound, right? You have the two L's is E. It makes the Y sound, pollo, right? So if it's one L, it's polo. But if it's two L's, it's pollo. You have the Enye, that can be confusing because it's a completely different character. Most of the characters are the same, but the Enye is like N and Y. Niña. Mañana. So it's confusing. But yeah, cuídate todos. And I'm going to let you guys go. It's late. I'm tired. And I've just been hanging because we got such a good group tonight, and I appreciate you guys. So we'll try and get on here. If Fridays work, maybe I'll do other ones on Friday when I can. Maybe we'll do late night. What happens if I do a midnight live stream? Would any of you show up? Maybe. Maybe it's worth that. So yeah, Spanish is difficult. Freedom is difficult, but we keep trying, and we'll just take it a little day at a time. All right, you guys. Shout out to all of you. Thanks for being there. Thanks to our channel backers, supporters, Patreons, and everyone that contributed to the super chat tonight. Tossing those tacos in and the electricity money. When's this due? I got to get to work. All right, pay the electricity. It's due on the 18th, and they will cut you off. Right? It's not like the States where you can be a month late on your electricity. They will cut off your light, and then you got to go through the bureaucracy to get it back. Buenas noches, amigos. Cuídate.